wondering, I never did a New Year's resolution, mostly because I think they're corny. I already go to the gym. And in general, I'm a big self-improvement guy. Like, I need a white noise app at night to drown out the thoughts of what to do, what to do, what to do. How can something get better? I'm obsessive with those kinds of things. I think it's healthy to a degree, but sometimes it can be a little paralyzing. And so, if anything, I probably need to make an adjustment more so there than anything. But I kind of have one now, which is I'm really going to try hard to stop qualifying things when it comes to the Leafs. The idea of going, I know the Leafs are first in the standings, right? It's like, I'm kind of sick of that talk. I feel as though part of the reason why people are at times hesitant to be critical of the Leafs when they play poorly, or part of the reason why I think genuinely the Leafs have had difficulty maturing is that there is always qualifying, because there's this like weird fear that any type of critique or any type of meaningful self-analysis or public self-analysis will lead to a panic, a fervor, a meltdown in the city, right? Don't you guys get that sense? It's like, even when you're, not so much when you're talking with your friends, but whenever I do this publicly, it's just always, hey, and there's a lot of good things too, but also maybe William Nylander should have more than one goal in 11 games. I know William Nylander's going to bounce back, and he's a terrific player. He's a terrific talent, and I'm not worried about the Shut up. Nobody speaks that way with their friends. Like, this guy's been horrible lately. That's how you speak to your friends. And you, the people, especially the subscribers to the podcast. Oh, the friends. That's why I try to reply to DMs. Is because I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. So we are in this together. So I'm going to try actively moving forward to stop qualifying. And if you think that every criticism is just a full-blown panic, I would suggest that you look inwardly, because it probably says more about you and your fears about this team and the belief or the idea that you have actually bought into the premise in which the Toronto Maple Leafs are being held back because their fans care too much, or because the media speaks about them, as though that is not something that has happened with, say, the world champion Boston Celtics, right? Think Celtics fans? You know who else gets spoken about? Almost every other team. Hockey's just weird because there are a lot of teams that actually don't get any publicity and aren't really spoken about. It's a sport that does have the San Jose Sharks and the Anaheim Ducks and the Utah hockey clubs, where there's probably two people on the beat at any given time. And so the comparison gets to be, well, look at those guys. They get to just play hockey. And look at all the success, the recent success of the Anaheim Ducks with all the lack of media pressure that they have. God, are they thriving with it? So let's start today with some critiques. The team won't do it. The team, they're not going to do it, so somebody should. Somebody should say something, because publicly anyways, Craig Berube ain't doing it. I got a little theory on that. Some of the players ain't doing it, as we outlined with Mitch Marner and his "I thought we played well" comments, which again get reiterated by the coach a night later after. I don't know. I honestly don't know it anymore with this stuff. So there's a little bit of a fear of public accountability. Oh, we don't want to turn things into a story. But as I mentioned yesterday, the more you do stuff like that, the more you actually make it a story with the diehard fans, with the people that follow this team and have been invested in this core through its entirety. So here's a little bit of what I'm seeing right now. The Leafs are in first place in the Atlantic. Cool. That's nice. Is the Atlantic full of juggernauts this season that I'm unaware of? I know we get trapped in our silos, and hockey is very much a regional sport, right? It was at one point absolutely a real national sport in this country. It remains that for some people. I think that now the fantasy heads There's diehards that try to watch, as many games as possible, as many teams as possible. There's fantasy people that track the rest of the league. But for the most part, it is very similar to baseball, where, and I think most sports are kind of going in this direction outside of football, because football, everybody has a fantasy team and everybody gambles on all the games, and they do spread out the events in a certain way that makes it really conducive to following all of the teams. Basketball used to be a little bit more like that, but again, I think it's becoming more regional than it is national, especially with the diminishing attributes of the LeBron Jameses and the Kevin Durants and the Steph Currys as they kind of go into more of the middle area of the league, and we're trying to transition into buying into new stars. But the Leafs are 8th in the NHL standings right now, and they're just a point up on 3 other teams, a couple of which actually have games in hand. The Atlantic, the story this season has essentially been, hey, the Bruins are a massive disappointment. Hey, the Senators are turning it around and getting goaltending now, but they've had large stretches of disappointment. Montreal has gone from a rebuild to potentially a buyer, but ultimately, that's not exactly a juggernaut of a team. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been fine, but over the years, I think we would acknowledge that they have been kind of in a slow decline, right? And the Florida Panthers are defending Stanley Cup champions, so I think they're given a little bit of grace when it comes to the up and down nature of their performances so far. Because guess what? When you win, you get the benefit of the doubt that you can do it again. And you certainly do when it comes to back-to-back playoffs where they've been spectacular. The Leafs don't get that benefit of the doubt, okay? So when the trouble areas pop up, you're reminded that this is a team that throughout the core 4 era, well, I guess the core 3 because Tavares wasn't here from the outset, they've won a playoff series. So when the trouble signs start to perk up and people talk about the record and how they've done in 1-goal games and how great the goaltending has been, you say, that's fine for a certain amount of time. But now, again, they're 8th in the standings. And if you compare them, as Luke Fox did yesterday, to the other division leaders when it comes to goal differential, they're the group that stands out amongst them as the least impressive. The Capitals are plus 63 in goal differential. The Jets plus 48. The Golden Knights plus 34. The Maple Leafs are plus 8 now. This isn't a team that runs away with a ton of games. This isn't a team that's just browbeating the division. This isn't a team that looks materially different than teams from years past. They've been pretty mediocre, if not, let's be honest, bad for a decent stretch here. Yeah, they ripped off 5 wins in a row, and they deserve credit for that. They deserve credit for the reasons that they're in the standings, but man, I think it was Ennis that pointed out yesterday that I think they're 2 points better through 45 games, but that's with top 5 save percentages. Their high danger opportunities have completely shrunk. Myrtle pointed that out yesterday. It's like their first 20 games, high danger chances at even strength, they were 5th in the NHL. Now, over the last 25, they're 22nd. This team has not been trending in the right direction for a little while now. And you could go, oh, JD, but Matthews has been hurt. You go, yep. When did the power play look the best? It was when Matthews was hurt. It was when he was out. Did the team really suffer in the standings when Matthews was out? No, they were able to win games. They had their moments. They had their flashes. There's a lot of the same problems. Jake McCabe goes out. The blue line looks really thin and seems like it needs some additions on the back end. They still don't have secondary scoring. They've got other guys that are clearly not pulling their weight, i.e. Max Domi, who I think has still 3 goals this season and was signed to what is, for this team anyways, a significant contract at over $3 million a season. The Stars have gone into lulls, and there are games where they disappear at times. The power play has completely dried up. They're 0 for 2 yesterday, and I'm giving them credit because they're hitting posts. And most notably, as of late, and what I have felt the frustration of, and what I have personally felt frustration towards, is that the big change of the offseason was the head coach. And it's probably not the most fair position to be really getting upset with Craig Berube, who's trying to find his bearings with a new team. And talking to Rick Bowness gave me some level of perspective when it came to, hey, it takes time to ingratiate yourself with a hockey team. And Craig Berube is probably not that far removed. Well, he is certainly not that far removed from guys like Jordan Kyrou saying, we're going to get our culture back now that he's gone. And so there might be a little bit of hesitancy for him with this new team, given what he's learned about them, to just be chastising them in the media. Ultimately, I don't care what a coach says in the media, but I do think that there can be a reflection of what has been presented to us, which is this accountability culture, right?
Chris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin to Los Angeles Kings, possible deal with Toronto Maple Leafs. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Chris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. Stay tuned for updates to see if these trades come to fruition and how they might shape the future of Toronto and Los Angeles this season. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Chris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. The Kings' situation is complex, as they are in the midst of a transitional period. Their aging roster, which includes a core group that led them to several successful playoff campaigns in the past, has seen some struggles in recent seasons. While there's a clear need for defensive help, Los Angeles may also want to improve their offensive consistency in order to make a deep playoff push. The combination of Beauchemin's defensive reliability and Versteeg's offensive upside could help the Kings balance their lineup. From the Leafs' perspective, this potential deal is about retooling for the future. The team is in a position to compete, but they also need to solidify certain areas on the ice. Adding a player like Wayne Simmonds could provide the grit and scoring touch that the team has been missing. Furthermore, acquiring a mid-range draft pick could help with future team-building efforts, as Toronto looks to remain competitive while still developing young talent. The inclusion of Kaberle in the trade package could be a strategic move for both teams. The veteran defenseman, who has been with the Leafs for a long time, has seen his role diminished in recent seasons. However, his experience and offensive abilities could be a valuable asset for Los Angeles, who could use a steady presence on the blue line to help their younger players develop. The talk surrounding Brayden Schenn's potential involvement in the deal adds an intriguing layer to the negotiations. Schenn, a versatile forward, has shown flashes of brilliance but has been inconsistent at times. If the Leafs are able to land him, it could be a great opportunity for both the player and the team to find success together. Schenn's physicality, two-way game, and leadership could be exactly what the Leafs need to bolster their forward group. While the trade market can be volatile and unpredictable, these rumors suggest that both the Kings and Leafs are preparing for significant changes. For Toronto, this could mark the beginning of a new era, with a focus on adding more experience and depth. For Los Angeles, the trade could be a chance to retool and address some of the weaknesses in their lineup, while still competing for a playoff spot this season. Of course, as with any trade rumors, it's important to remember that these discussions are fluid and can evolve quickly. There are many moving parts in these types of negotiations, and both teams will likely have to weigh their options carefully before making any final decisions. It's also possible that other teams could enter the fray, further complicating the situation. In the coming days, fans of both teams will be watching closely to see if any concrete moves are made. The NHL trade deadline is fast approaching, and teams are scrambling to position themselves for a successful postseason. Whether this rumored deal materializes or not, the possibility of a major trade between the Leafs and Kings will certainly keep fans on edge as the season continues to unfold. The trade talks involving Versteeg, Beauchemin, and potentially Simmonds or Schenn highlight the delicate balance that NHL teams must strike between immediate success and long-term growth. Both the Leafs and Kings are trying to find that balance, and this rumored deal could ultimately serve as